Hello learners, welcome to ARPIT. I talked in part 1 of my speech on preparing for transformed libraries in 21st century. I talked about changing scenario, I talked about how things are changing, the changing landscape of libraries and what is it that disrupt the library services. Now, in this part 2 of this talk, I will be talking about new roles, skills and strategies that libraries have to adopt to be of service to the libraries in 21st centuries. So, the new rules, skills and strategies for libraries, the slogan is honors the past and create the future. We cannot just wish away the past is with us and it is a cultural heritage that we are carrying in the library in the form of books, journals, electronic media, and the slogan is in line with the past and online with the future. So, you have to curate what you already have in print format, but acquire and maybe digitized in something that is available online. So, this horse you can say is running on 2 legs and maybe reaching nowhere or reaching somewhere, it would take a lot of times. So, libraries of future cannot function without a balanced ecosystem. They have to create a balanced ecosystem, define the new roles and adopt strategies to train yourself for new skills. So, libraries stir curiosity, inspire and provide affordable access to good quality knowledge and information. So, the basic role of the library is to invite people to read and learn, meet and discuss, shape and develop, support serendipity and interdisciplinary research and collaborate with the users. These are the basic functions that one can assign to the libraries. It is no more a space, just a space available to the user where you ask them to keep mum or keep silent. It is a place where they are there to read and learn, to meet and discuss, to shape and develop, and what libraries can do is support serendipity and interdisciplinary research and collaborate with the users for the project that they have, for the research that they have. Let us look at what is innovation. The first rule of innovation is that new ideas results from collection of existing ones scattered in time and space. Let us look for some example. This is a book. The title of the book is Enquire Within Upon Everything. The year of publication is 1856. Now, this 1856 books was read by Tim Berners-Lee and it made an impression on him that this is a little book that contains almost everything that he can think of. So, it make an impression on him that there are something which can give answer to everything. So, with that conception in 1975 when he was working for CERN, he developed a local application called Enquire at CERN about 15 years later. Now, when the technology became available 15 years later, in 1990 he developed new global application which is HTML and hypertext. So, what he read in a book that was dated 1856 culminated in an idea about 200 years later into a what is called web and which is what we live and thrive on even now. Anaximander 600 BC, he observed that some same process that occur on earth must happen at every place throughout the universe. So, this was his theory. The theory was read by Newton and 1000 years later Isaac Newton in the year 1660 developed law of gravity. So, what Newton gave, the theory of gravity, was read by Albert Einstein and 300 years later he gave special theory of relativity based on the theory of gravity by Newton. Georges Lemaitre in 1927 based on the theory of Einstein of special theory of relativity, he gave Big Bang theory and based on Big Bang theory about 50 years later Alan Harvey Duth in 1980 gave theory of cosmic inflation. So, there is a chain that you can say that started building up way back in 600 BC which finally gave to your theory which is more like uniformly accepted. The second principle of innovation is conceptual blending or thinking out of box, creating new ideas by combining exist one from totally unrelated spaces. Let us look at the example. In this picture you can see a pig, a slaughterhouse and Henry Ford. Apparently you cannot make a connection between a slaughterhouse or piggery and manufacturing of car, but there is a connection. The connection is that Henry Ford visited a piggery, a slaughterhouse, and he saw that slaughterhouse has a various stations. At one station they skin the pig, the another station they take the component out, third station they clean it up, and likewise they had a station. Now he thought, why do not apply this principle into manufacturing of car? So the assembly line, the concept of assembly line actually was something that he saw at slaughterhouse, and he developed into assembly line for manufacturing car. Before that, about 10% or 15% would be working on a single car. Somebody is fixing the wheel, another person is working on the bonnet, yet another is working on the gearbox. So this is something which was completely unrelated field. This thing came, and finally Henry Ford gave a car called T model, and which was mass produced first in 1908, an affordable car that he promised he will give it to every American. Another example of out of box thinking is on US Mexico border, a person called Johnny Day used to cross the border every day, and on the handle of it he will keep a sandbar. At the border he was stopped every day, he was asked what is he carrying. So they will open the box and see that all he is carrying is a sand. So about 2 months happened, and this person was every day he used to go with that sand bag, and every day he was checked, and every day they did not find anything. Finally Johnny Day met the immigration people somewhere in the bar, and they asked him, what is it that you carry? We have just gone mad, we are not able to figure out as to what you are carrying. Johnny said, I am smuggling cycles. So they were trying to find out something on the sack that he was carrying, but they never looked at the cycle that he was riding. So he was basically smuggling cycles every day without noticing, because people are looking at the sandbag which he was carrying. So when you keep looking into the box, you do not see what is outside the box. Kodak did the same thing. Kodak was the first who discovered digital camera, but they had huge plants of thin films, the films, productions of old cameras and all. So they did not want to invest in digital camera and do away with their plants, which they had a huge infrastructure. So what happens? Kodak finally filed bankruptcy. Same thing happened to Nokia. Nokia is the owner of touch screen technology, but they did not want to do away with their Nokia plants, which were there in the entire world. They were the, in a way, single name when it came to mobile telephones. They did not want to do that, but somebody else did it, and Nokia was finally sold off to Microsoft. So if you do not change according to the technology, this is what happens. Sony was the first to discover music on the disk, USB music on the user, but they did not want to touch their Walkmans, their plants that were producing Walkmans in thousands. So they did not know anything, but someone else, the Apple people came up with their iPad and iPod, and finally Sony is a history now. So one have to change with the time. Windows is something that rhymes the computer world for years, but Android has finally replaced it at several places, especially mobile technology and others. This is a picture which is RFID enabled libraries. So in RFID enabled library, we usually use RFID for theft detection, for identification of books, for placement of books and all. What RFID can also do is it can read about the user's interest, because they are also carrying their RFID card that they can use, and they can kind of display as to what is available with the library for that particular person who has just walked into the library. So the concept of wall with touch screens and all can be used very effectively, but we do not use it, but this is something that can be experimented with. Now, this slide shows list of URLs does not allow blending of concept. Online search engines are source of information, but they are not enablers of innovative ideas, because innovative ideas come with blending of concept. So, when you get a list of references where no one is connected to each other, completely different field, completely different things, it does not enable innovation. The mind typically works with association of ideas. Now, look at the library catalog. The visual mix of time and space enables blending of concepts. So, if you look at the library catalog, you have 100 years old books mixed with less than 5 years old books. You have books on chemistry, biology, environment, literature, software, sanitary engineering put together one after another, which kind of facilitate blending of concept. So, you can create groups, engineering books online, then ideas of blending is neurologically facilitated. Now, this is an example, typical example of how interdisciplinary research or blending of idea works. There was a company, pharmaceutical company, which produced chemicals, and it had about 15 to 20 chemicals which they were not able to find a stable version of. So, they had collaboration with universities, they had collaboration with research institution, but they were not able to find a stable version for the chemicals, for about 15 to 20 chemicals, which could be a potential drug. So, they thought, why not we invite people on the web that alright, you give a solution to that and we will be able to compensate you for your ideas, for your inputs. So, they gave an advertisement on the web and invited people to come up with their concept. Surprisingly, what they could not achieve with their collaborator in universities and research institutions, they were able to do it through this platform called Innocentives, where people came up with the idea. All the 15 or 20 chemicals that were unstable, they gave idea to how to make a stable formation of those chemicals. What was surprising is that idea came from biologists, mathematicians, crystallographer, aviation engineer and physical sciences, not from the chemist and pharmacist. Why? Because chemists and pharmacists knew that the stable version for these chemicals are not available. So, they did not even attempt. The biologist, the crystallographer, mathematician, they made a different approach and came up with a idea that could formulate a chemical with stable version of chemicals. So, outsider brings new perspective to solve a problem. They applied old ideas from their current field to the new fields, and they do not know that what they are trying to do is impossible. So, in fact, Ranganathan, who came to the field of library science, was a mathematician, and many of the ideas that he brought was mathematics idea that were applied to classification, cataloging, faceted theories and other theories that now are integral part of library and information science. There is another very interesting story. George Bernard Danzig did not know that he was attempting to solve two unsolved mathematical problems. In fact, when he walked into in the class, he was late. The Professor Newman was teaching statistics. He wrote two problems on the blackboard, which were unsolved statistical problem. So, when he entered the class, he saw that there are two problems that are written on the board. He thought these are the problems that are class assignment that is required to solve. So, he took note of both the problems and tried to solve those problems. It was difficult, but he was able to solve both the problems. It took about 2 weeks, but he was able to solve it. He submitted his assignment to Professor Newman. Professor Newman, when he saw the assignment, he was astonished. He said, this student has solved an unsolved problem. So, he visited the student. He said, what you have done is you have solved a problem that was unsolved for past 100 years. Now, the question is, why is that happen? Because the student did not know that he is trying to solve an unsolved problem. Probably if he knew, he would not have been coming out with a solution. So, after the student passed his masters, he wanted to do his PhD. Professor Newman said that you do not have to do anything, just the problem that you have solved, bring it, write a fair solution and submit it. That would be your PhD. So, his PhD was just those two unsolved problems that he has solved, thinking that they are class assignments. So, it is very important that you do not know what you are attempting is unsolvable. Open URL and link resolver. Open URL and link resolver is basically the backbone of discovery services, backbone of federated search. It works on the fact that a particular citation style is used by various databases. So, the databases that they have, there is a typical way of rendering a bibliographic reference, starts with author, title, year of publication, source, year and pages and all. So, that sequence is very typical, and the Herbert von Sompel, who was the librarian at University of Ghent, he used that knowledge to create what is called OpenURL. It is a technology now purchased by Librex, and it is a part of it, but then it is developed by librarian because he had knowledge of library science, in depth of knowledge of library science, and he knew how the web functions. The amalgamation of two different knowledge domain gave to a new technology, which is now backbone of discovery services as well as of federated search. Now, given this background, what are the new roles and skills and strategies that librarians are required to have? So, one of them is provide quality learning spaces to people. When we walk in our libraries, what we see is that the user space is being eaten up by shelves. We add more books, more shelves, and the spaces that are booked for the user, that were meant for the users, is eaten away by the additional shelves. What we need to do is, we have to see that the spaces provided to the user is quality spaces, they are given comfort, the type of furniture they have should be comfortable, they should have meeting rooms and discussions room wherever possible. So, what we need to do is reorganize learning spaces, comfortable and dynamic spaces conducive to problem solving, learning, discussions and interaction between users. Library spaces being prime locations will increasingly be used less for storing books and journals and more for other purposes, because you will be acquiring lesser number of print books and more of e-books and e-journals. So, the libraries will be selling. At the same time, you may also be discarding a lot of print books. For example, in IIT Delhi library, the half the floor, shelving floor, was filled with chemical abstract. Now that we have SciFinder Scholar from 2007 onwards, we did not require them anymore. So, that space can be effectively used for making comfortable spaces for the people. So, strategy is to redevelop library spaces and phase out legacy print document, convert them into digital objects. Now, this is a snapshot of library North Carolina State University. You can see, all you can see is furniture of different type. What you cannot see is the books and journals. Books and journals are all stored in a mechanical lift operated, or rather automated library tower, where on click of button you can bring any shelf opposite to you, and you can, the library catalog gives the functioning of browsing, looking for the titles. You can, library catalog can put you browsing by subject, by classification number, whatever one can imagine is available. So, all you can see is lot of spaces. There are about 80 kind of furniture that North Carolina State University Library has. They have a gaming room where people can develop games, the computer science people can develop games, challenge others and develop more games, more challenges. So, it is a learning as well as playing. This is yet another shot from North Carolina State University Library. Yet another function of library is create metadata and linked data. So, librarians have instinctive skills for knowledge organization using standard vocabulary, thesaurus and subject heading. So far major development in these fields have come from the publishers outside the libraries, and it is likely to continue so. So, librarians have to get associated these kind of publishers and use their skill for developing metadata and linked data. Partner with the research community in digital library, metadata creation and extraction, semantic web application, etc. is something that librarians have to do. The role of librarians with respect to metadata will be vastly different from their old cataloging role, where we used to assign 7 to 8 subject heading to the book or to a given publication and done away with it. So, that is not going to work now. Look at one of the application of metadata, data visualization, where Michael Keller published linked data and semantic web map of science. You can see map of science is developed using linked data and semantic technology. This is a snapshot from Vidwan, Professor Asudesh Sharma, Secretary DST. You can see this provides a map, a collaborative map of co-authors of Dr. Sharma. So, using technology this has been done, bibliographic databases, but data have been taken out to bring these kind of co-author networks. Likewise, you can develop map of science out of his publications. He can see what are my fields and how closely they are associated with other fields, so that he can work on the other fields also, where he feel that association is possible and he can find associates in that. So, this is something that library databases has to facilitate it. This is paper scope of map of science of scientific universe in high energy physics. So, you can see how bibliographic data is used for generating such kind of maps that gives some kind of a meaningful authors to people. Reposition library and its resources. Where do you find people? Most people are on Facebook, they are in Web 2 technology. So, open your catalog to Google, integrate discovery services with Google, provide links to non-traditional sources. You need to work on content management system, create MySpace on your library website, where people can create their space, save their links and work in collaboration with the library. Create spaces on Facebook. Vidyamitra is an integrated e-content repository available on YouTube. So, you should be cataloging these resources in addition to what your library already has electronically or otherwise. So, you need to give integrated access to every content that library has, not only through your catalog, but also through Facebook and other. So, be present where the people are. Promote, shape and develop. Makerspace. Makerspace are getting very popular in the libraries. So, you have to have a corner where people can come, do their, they develop their model in the library, 3D printing, facilitate collaborative opportunity to student faculty, discussions room, learn languages, they can learn languages from each other. This kind of posting should be available in the library. Students and faculty design their experiment in the library and carry them out in their laboratory. So, 3D printing is something which is in and available in makerspace in the libraries. So, this is just a snapshot of world's first 3D printed office building in Dubai, built in 2015. Library everywhere. Now, library resources and services should be available everywhere and anywhere. That basically means that your in-campus and out of the campus access should be available to your resources using technologies like InFed, Shibboleth, Easy Proxy, Remote Access, the faster access to internet in the library, so the people get attracted to it. Outreach activities extended both in depth and breadth of the community. The library should, so if the mullah cannot come to the masjid should reach out to mullah. So, strategy is to migrate from print to electronic collections, reference works, credo reference I have already mentioned, then printed secondary services into online databases, print journal to e-journals, which I think this migration has been done by major libraries, print books to e-books. Of course, textbooks have been a question, but slowly and gradually textbooks are also appearing. Services like virtual reference services, FSMS services, RSS feed should be built into your services that you already offer to your users. 7 point, collect and digitize archive material. So, you should be converting your print or legacy document into digital format and buy more and more content into the digital format, because this is a media which is preferred by users. So, collect digital archive material and offer a significant opportunity to librarians. Digitized manuscripts, rare books, books out of copyright, and librarians should acquire legal knowledge related to licensing or resources. When you buy something in electronic format, you have to sign licenses, and for licenses you have to acquire the knowledge that is built into signing a license. So, you should know legal implication of what you are signing, and for that legal knowledge is required. Now, join library consortium, you can acquire things at much cheaper rate by joining a library consortium. In India there are number of them: Ishod Sindhu, Enlist, SERA, NKRC, DEA consortium, Delcon and Delnet. So, these are number of consortium that are already available. You may be entitled for one of them, or many of the consortium like ESS is open. So, you can join open consortium and get benefit of lower rate of subscription through these consortium. Accreditation and ranking of academic libraries. This is something which is very important. Librarians have a very crucial role to play in ranking, because 30 to 40% of ranking is based on publications and citation. Where the librarians have an expertise, they can give their inputs into a ranking system like India ranking 2018. I have seen that many places librarians are the nodal officer for India rankings as well as for other rankings also. So, you need to train yourself to provide data which are required for ranking of institutions. Like in FilmNet, we provide data for India rankings from Scopus, from Web of Science, from Thomas Patent databases, Indian Citation Index, and we provide it to India ranking as well as to NAC. So, this is something that you can also do. Measuring research output, bibliometrics and citation analysis. So, this is an important concept where you can measure the research output of your universities. You can measure research output in terms of year, multiple years. You can measure average annual growth rate of publication, contribution of a given institute in comparison to the world and in comparison to India's total publications. So, this is some kind of an insight into what is happening in institute. You can give relative specialization index of an institute. You can give publication of BHU in top 25% producing research area with compared to world and India, and you can compare their impact of research in terms of citations, highly cited articles and others. So, you can measure collaborations, and you can also give covert occurrence analysis, which are now available using different kind of software. So, international collaboration can also be measured. Now, predatory journals. Predatory journals is a big menace, and every researcher is affected by it. Many times they do not know they are publishing in predatory journal. So, librarian must impart knowledge to researcher, to the faculty, how to avoid predatory journals. So, this is something that one must take up. So, there are sources like Beall's list of publishers, predatory journals, Cable's blacklist or whitelist. In fact, 27% of predatory articles originates from India, and more than 5,000 journals are identified by InfluMnet as predatory during our exercise to produce UGC recognized journals. Research involvement. The library must get involved in research that the university is doing. So, library becomes a learning hub to meet the teaching, research and learning requirement of user, develop and maintain an institution repository, preserving the university's research output. They should built in altmetric profiles for faculty and institute, and it add features like number of articles downloaded in a repository, number of citations that these articles have attracted, create profile of Google Scholar and tie up with IRs, API score your repository should be able to calculate. So, these are some important inputs. Deeper collaboration with faculty, you would be able to give substantive input for supporting research and scholarship in the institute, set up a unit in the library with dedicated staff to support faculty in project writing objects, help faculty to identify funding sources and write projects, write collaborative projects with faculty, help faculty in their research projects, in literature search, finding out references, find collaborators, scientists working on the same field in different institutions, and help in data sharing and presentation and visualization. This is something that librarians must be able to do. Teaching information literacy is one important aspect the librarians can do. They have technological knowledge, they have knowledge of resources that are available. So, they should support faculty and researchers in promoting e-resources, in providing intermediary role, co-browsing, educating them in new technology useful to them such as wikis, RSS feeds, semantic web, listservs, blogs, citation searching, and training in how to search citation, generating awareness about impact factor, normalized citation, H-index, I-10 index, I-20 index, so on and so forth. One of the major role that libraries can play in support and implement technological solutions. So, there are content management systems, reference management systems like Mendeley's, e-learning management system, MOOCs, research information management system, standards in research and administrative information, altmetrics tools, e-resource management, identity providers like ORCID, Google Apps. So, these are the technology that librarian must master and impart knowledge about them to the researcher, so that the library becomes an hub of activities, especially technological solution. The libraries were first adopter of technology. When the web came, they were the first who built pathfinders, and we are the one we are continuing with the learning of new technology, and this is what we should adopt as a role to support the institution and faculty in implementation of technological solution. So, this is all. Thanks a lot for your patience hearing, and all the best to the learners of ARPIT. Thank you.